Hey guys, it's Diogo Trevisan. Today I'm gonna talk about fat. Fat is not just the fluffiness in your body, the extra folds. It has some deep biological functions. The cells of the fat tissue are called adipocytes. Adipocytes have once been called hibernating cells. That's because hibernating animals tend to have more fat. You look naked eye to a horse and to a polar bear, and you will see that the polar bear in the body constitution has more fat. So let's talk about the first function of the fat, which is insulation. It keeps your body from losing heat. So it keeps the heat of the body that is essential for metabolism. I can give you another example that doesn't work for nowadays because fat comes from overeating, but I can give you an example of adapting to the environment, which are the Eskimos. When compared to Africans, for example, Eskimos have more fat. The puffy cheek, they're a little more fat. They live in extremely cold environment. And when you picture an African in your head, you probably picture like really shredded, full of muscles, low body fat. And that's an adaptation to the environment. So let's talk about a few of the functions. I'm not gonna get into it because there's way too many, believe me, but a few of the functions of the fat tissue. It has to do with nerve protection, production of hormones, cell signaling, is a source of energy. It participates in many processes of metabolism. So let's talk about the main one that people know, which is a source of energy. Right? So why does the body store energy in the form of fat? It's so hard to burn. This thing is always here. It appears around the belly. Why is it so, why fat? So the first reason is because fat is a good source of energy. While 1 gram of carbs will give you 4 calories in the form of energy for your body, 1 gram of fat will give you 9 calories, more than double. And why is it so hard to burn then? Fat is a huge carbonic chain as compared to a simple carbohydrate and much more complex. The body stores fat because it's lightweight. That's the difference, for example, from the protein. Protein weighs more than fat. And the reason is fat is apolar. It doesn't need water to bind. So it's way lighter than muscle. It's way more functional for the body to carry around. The protein does need water to bind it for metabolism. That's why when people, drink creatine, like, bodybuilders say drink a lot of water. When they eat too much protein, it can kind of affect your kidneys. That's why, because it needs water to bind and for the metabolism. Therefore, it can overload your kidneys. So why is fat so hard to burn? Like I mentioned, has a long carbonic chain, more complex than simple sugars. So every time you deplete your energy, so you start exercising, you burn your intramuscular glycogen, your liver glycogen, your blood sugar, you deplete it, the body will start requiring energy from the fat, but it will require energy from protein as well, which is called proteolysis. The breakdown of protein is called proteolysis. Breakdown of fat is called lipolysis. So during lipolysis, you're always in proteolysis. So if you starve yourself, you're burning fat, or you're also burning muscle. That's why those people in concentration camps look so skinny. They don't have fat, but they don't have muscle, like a walking skeleton. So, healthy way of burning fat. There are 2 types of food. One that spikes your insulin, and one that doesn't spike your insulin. Obviously, proteins, everyone know, the body reassembles in the form of muscle you need for hypertrophy, so I don't need to get into it. But let's talk about simple versus complex carbs. When you eat simple carbs, those carbohydrates will be broken down and absorbed in your system really fast. What happens is your sugar level raises too fast. your sugar levels should be in between 80 and 120. Lower than 80, you're sluggish, your brain doesn't function. Glucose is essential for internal organs, for your brain, for your heart, so it cannot be under 80. Over 120, and the sugar increases the oncotic pressure in the cells. That's why diabetic people have kidney problem. The nephrons start dying because of the overpressure of the glucose offer on the kidney. They start having retinopathy. The retina cells start blasting because of the increase in pressure. They have circulation problems because the vasa vasorum and the vasa nervorum of the arteries also start dying, exploding because of the increased pressure in the sugar. So it cannot be over 120. The function of the pancreas is when you eat simple carbs, sugar goes up, it shoots insulin, and it assembles that sugar in the form of glycogen in the liver or in the form of glycogen in the muscle. A diabetic patient doesn't have that, so the sugar stays high. And then when you see like that apple sweet smelling breath and the sweating, sluggishness that can also give you, but high blood sugar is tricky because it can be asymptomatic. A lot of people have high blood sugar and have absolutely no symptoms. Complex carbs, on the other hand, they are slow release. They go through the stomach to be broken down, and it's super hard for the body, so it breaks down slowly, and the sugar is absorbed, or the glucose is absorbed and go to the bloodstream slowly, so it never spikes your insulin. That's why cupcakes, bread, white rice will spike your insulin, and that's why diabetic people have to stay away from it. So let's talk about a healthy individual. What happens when I eat bread? I'm healthy, I exercise. For the most part, people that lift weights need a lot of glycogen. They have a lot of glycogen stored in the muscles. They have a lot of glycogen stored in the liver. So when the insulin spikes up, the insulin, using another hormone, GLUT4, grabs those simple molecules of sugar and assemble into more complex molecules called glycogen. That will be used further on during exercise or when you're starving. The body can take that from the muscles or from the liver, be broken down, and keep the sugar level normal. So what happens if I eat too many carbs? I'm healthy, so it'll assemble in the form of glycogen in my liver, in my muscles, and what happened to the rest? I keep eating. That has to be used, and it'll go towards fat cells. That's why you even see bodybuilders before and after a cheating meal, and after they're fluffier. You don't see the abs as much. Like it's clearly right away you see the before and after. Has to do with water concentration as well, but mainly just so you understand. So that sugar left in your bloodstream that is not being burned with exercise, that the body cannot use to assemble as a form of glycogen, will go to the fat. And it's so hard to burn because it's a very long, complex chain of carbonic chain that is super hard for the body to burn. So you have your intake of protein, carbohydrates, and fat have to be really balanced, and there are ways of calculating that. It's called, people nowadays call flexible dieting, or macros counting, that it stands for macronutrients. You count the macronutrients to optimize metabolism, your protein intake, your fat intake, and optimize fat burning. Just starving yourself will not do it. You lose a lot of muscle mass because protein is way easier to break down. Let me know if you understood. If you have any questions, give a like to this video, subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.